There's one last question that harks back to something we were talking about before, about why people view us as being the fucked up ones when we, from our perspectives, feel like that's probably not the case at all. And the thing that comes to mind for me is that I wonder, because we have to do the work, we have to expose our gremlins and deal with our pain and acknowledge that and be open about it. I wonder if that's the reason why, because we're not afraid of these ugly bits so much, or we come to terms with these parts that are considered sort of scarred or disfigured or broken in some way. I wonder if that's the reason.
So I think partially the reason why is because we have had to historically go and have therapy and talk about how broken we are by gender. And we saw that as we had to ingest that as being our problem. The problem is gender. The problem is gender on a much wider scale across the whole of society. So I think what's starting to happen much more now is that a whole bunch of other groups saying, hold on a minute, there are no women's refuges, and men keep killing women and beating women up. There are no refuges. And, you know, into that comes the notion of where trans femmes, where people who identify as trans women fit in relation to that. But all we were allowed to do was to go along to see a therapist who quite often would be a cis, white, middle-aged, heteronormative man who would judge us and tell us that we were sufficiently fucked up enough to want to change our genitals. And that was the reductiveness of our journey. So the rest of the world could look at us and go, oh, I can't think of anything worse than being born in the wrong body. Or, you know, or do you feel better now that you've got rid of your bits and pieces, or you've changed your bit? You know, like we were really reduced down to being this kind of sideshow of gender, whereas gender en masse is a problem. And I think that we have allowed people to objectify us and to single us out for far too long as being the problem of gender, when actually the problem is gender and the way that we have socially created structures based around gender that fuck everyone up. And actually it's everyone else that needs to have therapy. We don't need to have therapy. We don't. We just need people to listen to us and hear what we're saying, and listen to us talk about how we want to change and adapt our bodies. And even if that's into a completely binary mold, it doesn't, you know, that's you know, those choices, that plethora of choices are available to us. But I think we've allowed people to view us as being fucked up for far too long. We're not fucked up. You know, it's like I remember, and that's not to say we get fucked up by the system that tells us we're fucked up and then treats us really badly. So they fuck us up. But one of the beautiful things about writing the last book that comes out next week is that
you can,
and I'm not plugging it, by the way, but well, I'm not, because I think it will do really well, because I think it's a beautiful book. But one of the nice things is about writing that book is that, you know, I got to interview people who were as young as 5, and there was nothing vaguely fucked up about them at all. They were just doing what they needed gender to do. And that's why I called the book Gender Explorers, because to me it was like all they're doing is exploring, and actually they're completely happy, sorted, enjoying life, confident, cocky, you know, all of that stuff. Just great kids who are really making gender do what they need it to do. And they're not taking on board the other stuff. They can see it. Some of them actually said it. Some of them said, you know what? I remember I talked to a young girl in the book, and I interviewed her, and I said, what would you say to a head teacher who wasn't being supportive of a trans pupil? And she said to me, she said, I'd tell them to get their aim on. And that's what I'd say. I'd say, get your A game on, and, you know, in a way, like get with the program, because we're not the messed up ones. You're the one that's not working hard enough.